There are a lot of rules about how you should do yoga squats, and I'm going to encourage you to do away with most of them. Yoga squat pose is also called Malasana, and it's a wonderful way to stretch your feet, your ankles, your lower back, your hips, and your knees. And there are three main joints that can cause problems with getting into squats, which are the hips, the knees, and the ankles. And we're going to explore the ways to open up these parts of the body, the ways to become familiar with what your limitations are, and then how to explore squats no matter what your flexibility is, so that everyone can enjoy the wonderful benefits of Malasana pose. You will be able to do this whole practice without any props, but I will give some options to use a block or two under the seat in certain squat variations, and a folded blanket or a rolled blanket, which could also be instead a rolled yoga mat or a rolled towel. So let's get started. Begin lying down on your back and feel the weight of your body against the ground. Feel the gentle hug of gravity as it pulls you in toward the center of the earth. And feel your body breathing up and down in the belly and the chest, the rhythmic rise and fall of the front of the body. Taking one more breath here. Good, and now bending the knees and hug them into your chest. You might have one hand on each knee, you might have your hands clasped around your knees, or you might hold on to opposite elbows. And as you hug the knees in, notice what you feel stretching here. Is it your lower back? Is it your hips? Is it the backs of your legs? And keep the knees together to begin with. And take a couple of breaths here. And just notice where your legs stop. So if you have a lot of distance here between your ribs and your thighs, then that might tell you that your hips have less flexibility, less skeletability, as I sometimes call it, if it's because of your bones. So it might be because of your bones, or it might be because of tension in the back or the hips. But in either case, if you have a lot of space here, then that might be a sign that you're going to be a little more challenged or limited in the kinds of squats you can do. And if you open your knees up now, then notice if your legs can come in a little bit more deeply. For some people, yes. For some people, no. If your knees come in more deeply, more toward your body, then that's a sign that a wide-footed or wide-kneed squat might be a better option for you. Good, let's clasp around the right knee now and extend the left leg forward onto the mat. Holding here for 1 minute. And let's do the same exploration here where the knee might be in toward the midline or farther out to the side, and you can play around with it and explore. And really what you're doing is navigating the inside of your hip socket with your leg bone. You can eventually find a place to rest. And keep on breathing into your belly. And now reach down with your right hand to hold the bottom of your right foot. Lift the foot up, so one-legged happy baby pose. Use a block under the head or some kind of cushion if you want some lift there. Holding for another minute here. And you can keep still, or if it feels good, explore some movement. Maybe press up into the heel, extend the leg a bit, or a little bit of side to side movement of the leg. Just feeling into this hip socket. You can play around with whether you're holding the inside of the foot or the outside of the foot, and whether you're letting the leg come farther out to the side or more in toward the midline. So this is really an upside down, one-legged squat, this happy baby pose with one leg. Staying connected to your breath. And releasing this leg out, and now interlace your fingers and press your palms up and away as you stretch down long through your legs and your feet. Inhaling a big full body breath here, and exhale, press even more through the hands, through the soles of the feet. And now take your left knee in towards your chest, 1 minute, clasping around the knee. And the same exploration here, maybe you find something similar to what you found on the first side, or maybe something a little different, whether the knee is in toward the midline or out to the side, and how close the knee comes in or not in each of these positions. Some people, the thigh comes right up to the ribs pretty easily, and that's a sign that you have some proportions working for you, or some ranges of motion, I should say, working for you to make your squats a little bit more easy, or so you have more options of how to squat. Couple more deep breaths here. And now reaching down with the left foot to hold, or reaching down with the left hand to hold the bottom of the foot, coming into the one-legged happy baby pose. So if it's challenging to reach the foot at all, then your options are to have a hand on the knee or to use a strap or a belt around the foot and holding it like so. And again, any movement that feels good here, feel free to explore. Warming up the hip, the back of the hip, the lower spine and the back of the leg, getting ready for some squats. Good, and release this leg now, and interlace the fingers and press the palms up and away. Inhale, and as you exhale, stay here. Keep pressing up through the hands, down through the soles of the feet. And bend both knees into your chest. Now lift your head up towards your knees, reaching down now to hold the bottoms of the feet, so you can hold the insides or the outsides of the feet. Some people, the elbows end up inside the knees, others they end up outside. It's up to you. Some people like to hold the big toe with the first two fingers. Any of these variations are valid, and rocking side to side is something that might feel really good on your low back, or extending into one heel, the other heel, both heels. Let yourself be the baby in the baby pose, playing and exploring. Again, one hand on each knee if that works better for you, and a block under the head or a folded blanket if that helps you to be more comfortable. can play around with bringing the soles of the feet together for an upside down butterfly pose. So here we are in a squat, an upside down squat. Very good. Go ahead and release the legs, and now roll over onto one side, make your way up into child's pose. And resting in child's pose for 1 minute. And feel your breath against the ground. Feel your breath resonating through your whole body. And here in child's pose, we're stretching into some of the joints that the squats are going to stimulate. And so that'll be the knees and the fronts of the feet a little bit and the backs of the hips. And as we come up out of child's pose into Seiza pose, we start to feel a little bit more of the knee range of motion. And so your knee range of motion may or may not allow you to sit on your heels here. And so a block or 2 blocks can be quite helpful here in between the feet. We're going to be here for 1 minute, so do take a moment to make yourself comfortable. You can have a pillow here on top of the feet and under your seat. A pillow or blocks. So 1 minute. The hands can rest inside of the lap. Breathing up and down the spine, the energy rising up the spine and back down the spine as you exhale. And releasing now, come forward onto hands and knees and into dragon pose with the right leg forward. So we'll do a different variation of dragon pose today called the dragon overstep. So this one is particularly for the back of the ankle and the calf here. And take your heel farther back from your knee. Let your knee come farther forward from your heel until you feel a stretch in the back of the Achilles tendon. So you might have your heel lifting up off the floor just a little bit, or your heel might be down on the ground just at the point where it starts to want to peel up. Now what really helps to achieve this stretch is to use the weight of your body on your thigh. So resting to press down and get that stretch in the back of the ankle. You may also be starting to feel it in the sole of the foot, which is wonderful if you have any plantar fasciitis issues going on. Really good way to stretch the sole of the foot. And this is, for me, a range of motion I don't have a lot of. And so you might be quite a bit farther back. You might have your heel way back near your buttocks with hardly any space here. If you have more room in the bones of your ankles than I do, you might be back here but have the heel on the ground. But this is where it is for me, a little farther forward than most people. And continuing to rest here. So really getting into the feet in this practice is means we're getting into the bones and the fascia a little bit more than muscle tissue. The feet are made up of a lot of fascia. The whole bottom of the foot is made up of fascia. And it's so good to stretch out all the little bones of the foot in this way. And you may want to explore letting your toes come farther out to the side. They don't have to be straight forward and back. And same with the knee. The knee might veer out to the side a bit. And it's really about what gives you the stretch in the ankle and the foot. It's not about aligning things in any particular direction. So let's go ahead and release this. And now inch your foot a little farther forward to come into a high dragon. So 1 minute here. And your version of high dragon, it could be like this with the hands clasped on the leg. It could be like this, or have blocks under the hands, or hands could wrap behind your back. And so now the target area changes. It's the leg of the thigh of the back leg, the front of this left thigh. And you can make it as much of a back bend as you like. All right, and now release, hands on either side of the front foot. Shift your hips back and come over this front leg in a half split pose. So once again, support under the hands, a block under each hand can make a big difference here. 1 minute to stretch into the hamstrings of this right leg. And now shift the weight forward onto the front foot. Make your way into downward facing dog. And in downward dog, start to walk your legs out. So here's another place where we can investigate our range of motion in squats. So we looked at the hips first. Now we're looking at the ankles. Do your heels touch the ground or not? And if they don't touch the ground, it could be a matter of tension in the back of the calf or the hamstrings, or even the lower back. But if you've been doing yoga for a pretty long time and your heels never touch the ground and you're not really seeing much difference, then that's a pretty good sign that you are dealing with compression in front of the ankle instead, which is what I have. So it's a matter of the shape of your bones, and it's really never going to change. So you just have to learn how to work with it. One of the wonderful ways to work with that is to use a block or 2 blocks underneath the hands in downward dog. And then the heels can come down, and it's not really so much about getting the heels to the ground, but it can just offer a little bit more upper body stretch for those who have that limitation to get the hands on blocks. So let's move it back into the lunge, the left leg coming forward now for the dragon overstep pose. So getting that heel far back enough to get the stretch in the foot and in the back of the ankle, and leaning your weight forward onto the leg. Making your micro adjustments as you find your way into it. So the toes maybe slightly out more or maybe slightly forward more, you decide. The knee maybe slightly out to the side more. And this is another way to do a one-legged squat. Very good. Now releasing and inch the foot forward to come into dragon pose, high dragon pose, with the hands clasped on the leg, blocks under the hands, or arms behind the back in some kind of clasp that feels good for you. Again, you can make it as much of a back bend as you'd like. Stretching into the quads and the hip flexor. Not so much what we need to open up for the squat, but just to balance out all the things that we're doing for the back of the hips. Very good. Releasing down now, coming into that runner's stretch or half split, blocks under the hands if you wish. And now shifting the weight forward onto the front foot again, tuck the back toes, downward facing dog. Walk the legs, stretching out the soles of the feet. This is a wonderful way to prepare the feet for a squat, is to walk around and even experiment with having the feet in different places in downward dog. So farther out to the sides, closer to the hands. Feeling all these different ways that these wonderful feet can stretch. And now beginning from downward dog to walk your hands back toward your legs. Hanging in Uttanasana, hanging forward bend. Go ahead and hold opposite elbows if that feels good, to help your body relax. Softening down through the head, the spine. Bend the knees as much as you'd like to here so that the stretch of the legs is not too intense, so that you can relax. And release the hands to the ground. And take the feet to shoulder width apart and begin to lower the hips, coming into our first upright squat. But we'll do this now with the hands walking out in front, and then just relax so that you're allowing the weight to hang forward. And you'll see for me, my heels are off the ground, which is fine. For you, your heels might be on the ground. Softening and relaxing here for just a couple breaths. Might feel good to shift your weight side to side. Good, and now lifting the hips again, hanging down in that Uttanasana forward bend. And now bend your knees so that your thighs come to horizontal or something approaching horizontal, and reach your arms back, coming into this dragonfly pose. And so for me, my feet want to come a little wider so that I can get deeper down. Feel free to play around with that. Dragonfly pose, go ahead and start wiggling your fingers, wiggle your sitting bones, and pretend you are a dragonfly. So this is a standing dragonfly pose. Of course, we have the Yin dragonfly, which is a totally different pose. Such is the yoga world. Good, and now release it down, hang over the legs again. So you might be wider now than shoulders, whatever width you're at is fine. Good, and now bend your knees again and reaching the arms back for your dragonfly pose. And now a lion face from here. So inhale your breath, and with a big exhale, tongue down, eyeballs up. Good, release it down. Relaxing the backs of the legs, relaxing the spine. And bending the knees once again into the dragonfly pose. Inhale, and the lion face once again. And now sweep the arms forward and up, coming into whatever your version of Utkatasana is for today. So for me, because of my ankles, my Utkatasana is quite pitched forward. For you, it might be a little more upright. I very much dislike this pose, but I do it anyway because it really works the thighs nicely. Oh boy, okay, release it down. And from here, step one leg forward so that you're facing the camera, facing the screen with a wide leg forward bend. And hanging down. Hold opposite elbows and sway side to side. And release your hands back to the ground. And now come into another version, yet another version of a one-legged squat. So side lunging over your right leg. Your hands can support you on the ground. If you're higher up here, you might want to have blocks under the hands. That's a great way to explore this. And as you can see, for me, my heel lifts up. For other people, the heel will be down, or at least maybe not this high up. But because of the way my ankles are, the heel is quite far up. And now we'll explore over to the other side. Just feeling this range of motion a bit. And now we'll come over and do a more yin hold of this. So 1 minute in this side lunge. And you might hover here like so with the hands for support, or you might enjoy exploring a block or two under your seat, which can let your weight come back a little bit more and might give you a better stretch in your foot. And it's up to you if you're sitting, whether you're sitting or hovering. You can experiment with letting some weight come onto this knee to increase the stretch in the foot and the calf and the knee. And this leg that's extended, it could be toes forward or toes up. That's totally up to you. If you're more limited in this range of motion, then sitting up on a chair or a low stool and leaning over to the side like this can be a really good adaptation. Feeling all the bones of the feet, the heel, the ankle, back of the ankle, Achilles tendon. And bring it up to the center and over to the second side for 1 minute. And bring it back up to the center now. Walk the hands between the feet and begin to heel toe your feet together until you are in a wider than shoulders distance, and start to lower your hips down. And as you come down, find a little wiggle so that you get the direction of your feet and the width of your feet that gives you the most range of motion to come down into a squat. Your heels may be on the ground or may not, and you might have your hands able to come into a prayer position or stay on the ground. Some of you will have a much better time doing this with a couple blocks under your seat, like so. Hands on the, or elbows on the thighs, or hands in a prayer position. So we're exploring, this is the first of a few variations of squat that we're going to explore, and then we will do it as a long yin posture for 3 minutes. So that's choice number 1, with or without the blocks. There's 2 choices. Lift your hips back up and heel toe the feet closer together for about a shoulder width. And you can try it with the toes forward or farther out to the side. As you start to descend in the hips, your body will tell you what direction the feet want to be in. And coming on down. And again, your hands might be on the floor. Your hands might enjoy coming inside the legs. So this is generally a more upright torso position. And it might feel good to you to do that. It might feel better to lean forward. And now with this wider squat, something that's nice to do is to have a twist, have a little twisting fun. So right hand on the ground, left arm can reach up and back. And bring it back down, left hand on the ground, right arm up and back. And here we're shifting the weight from one foot to the other. Let's take it back to the first side. And to the second side. And that's our middle choice squat. So lift your hips up and heel toe so that the feet come all the way together. And lower your hips down. So the closer the feet are together, the fewer people are going to be still doing the squat with the heels down. Not too many people will do this version with the heels on the ground. And again, whether the heels are down or not really the point of the pose. So the point of the squat pose is to stretch the lower back, the back of the hips, the knees, the Achilles tendon and the calf, the sole of the foot, and to get this nice articulation of the bones of the feet and the toes. Explore here, bending forward more or lifting upright more. The 2 blocks under the seat or 1 block under the seat is a possibility for any of these variations, wide, middle, or narrow. Okay, and the final choice is to bring a prop into it for underneath your heels. And this, for me, I'll use this folded blanket today. So this shape I'm gonna fold up one more time, or you could roll your blanket. Just make sure it's pretty firm. A blanket that's not too soft is best, or a towel, or a rolled yoga mat actually works well for this purpose too. And that can help, if you have ankles like mine especially, it can help you to sit back a little bit more and might feel better. I feel more stretch in my lower back when I sit back more. If I come forward more, I feel more stretch in my feet. So I like both. I like to do it both ways. So finding your favorite squat now out of all those choices we did and all the propping choices, wider legs, more narrow legs, blocks or blanket under the heels, blocks under the seat. 3 minutes we're going to do as a full-on yin pose. Starting now. And the squat is it's not a common or popular yin pose to do, but it is by its nature a yin pose when we do it this way, in a passive way, just letting gravity hold the body and working slowly in a patient way into the fascia, into the bones. Notice where you feel it the most. Is it the lower back? Is it the knees? Is it the ankles, the feet? Is it somewhere else? And breathe into what you're feeling. And slowly releasing now, and come all the way onto your back for some nice counter stretches. But first, a 1 minute rest. 1 minute on the back to feel the effects of that long held squat and all the squatting explorations that you did before it. Any comfortable position on your back is fine. Feeling the energy distributing itself throughout the feet, ankles, calves, knees. Notice how the initial feeling of perhaps an achiness begins to change. How does it change? Where does it move to? What happens to your sensations in your hips and your lower back? And now bending the knees, place the feet flat on the ground, and we'll come into bridge pose with or without a block. So if you don't have a block available, you can lift the hips up like so, clasp the hands if it feels good. We'll do 1 minute here. And if you're doing that active version, you can lift up and down as you wish so that it feels sustainable. And you can also have a pillow or a block under the hips. So the block will be placed at the back of the sacrum behind the hips, not so much in the lower back like this, but a little bit farther forward. It might feel good to extend the legs in this variation. 1 minute here. Bending the hips in the opposite way that we've been bending them quite a bit for that squatting sequence. Now just letting go, releasing, relaxing. And now bending your knees and lift your legs up into the air for this inverted pose, which will be really nice for the feet and the ankles and the legs after all that squatting. You can keep them straight upright, or if it feels good to you, start letting the legs come farther forward, and you can adjust your block so you don't have any corners jabbing into your lower back. Or if it's in your practice to lift the legs over the head into a snail or a plow pose, please feel free to go there. One minute here. Feeling stagnant energy in the legs, draining out, refreshing the energy of the legs, the feet, the ankles. Might even feel good to spread your toes out a little bit here. To circle your feet and ankles. Might feel good to let the arms rest above the head for the last few breaths. All right, very good. Let's release the feet back down to the ground. Lift the block, or lift the hips off the block, put it aside. And make your way into a spinal twist, 1 minute on each side, lifting the knees and taking them over to the right hand side. Left arm reaching out to the left, 1 minute here. And any version of spinal twist, knees crossed, knees on top of each other. Or if you're familiar with the cattail pose, that would be a nice counter stretch to what we've been doing. You'd take your right leg down, that's your bottom leg, and then bend the right foot up with your left hand, hold the foot, and open up into the twist from there. Right hand on the knee, opening it out to the side, and that right knee on the floor is opening or walking itself back. This is not a version for everyone, but if it's in your practice, it'll be a good choice right now. Most of us probably right here with the two knees on top of each other. Settling into deep breaths. And releasing back up to the center and slowly over to the other side. And release the twist, come back to the center and rest in final relaxation pose, Savasana, on your back. Any angles that feel comfortable to you, arms and legs as wide as you'd like for them to be, or feel free to put a pillow underneath your knees, a bolster, or something under your head. Make yourself warm if you want to cover with a blanket or extra clothes. Get cozy. And feel all of the energy that's been released, all of the chi that's able to move now in the lower part of the body, the hips, the feet, the ankles, the knees. And resting into this awareness. Awareness of energy, awareness of chi in the body. And I recommend continuing to rest here for another 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to leave you here. And I hope that this practice helped you to feel into your squats a bit more, feel some more confidence in your squats and in your ability to find your own way into the squat. I hope that your body feels balanced, that we counterbalanced enough in the practice, and I wish you well. Namaste. And if you want to learn a lot more about squats, check out my Anatomy of the Squat article and video. Links are in the description below. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, please subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so that you get notices of every video that I post every week. And check out my playlist of other yoga classes. Thanks for joining. See you next time.